What's up? Welcome back to my channel, the best place for hardworking and ambitious millennial professionals who feel stuck in their careers to find their dream careers. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down how to make a career transition, and it's really simple when you think about it. There are only literally 5 options to choose from. So make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell to receive regular updates on all things related to career change. Also, join my Facebook group called Career Change Advice, where you can chat with like-minded people who are interested in making their careers work for them rather than the other way around. Hi, I'm Dr. John Tam. I have a PhD in sociology from Oxford, and I'm passionate about helping millennial professionals find their dream careers through gaining clarity and building soft skills. So without further ado, in the order from the easiest to the most difficult career transition, here are the 5 options that you have when you are making a career transition. Option number 1, I call this adjusting the job to you. And by changing the job to you, it really depends on your company, right? It's not possible for all companies to accommodate this, but some companies are, and they want the best for their employees, and they're willing to adjust the work environment for them. And if you happen to be in this kind of situation, then good for you, right? You have the option to make this type of move. And so there are things that put you in a state of flow and things that put you out of a state of flow, and I talk about the state of flow in the cards above. But basically, the state of flow is when you're able to work on something and feel really satisfied. You can spend 5 hours on it, but it literally feels like 1 hour, right? And so what you can do is you can write out a list of things at work that you enjoy and a list of things at work that you hate. Now, to be very honest, there is no perfect job in the world. There are always going to be aspects of work that you love and hate. And so for myself, I actually don't like filming videos that much. I don't mind doing it, but it actually doesn't spark joy when I think about, I'm gonna film the next video, right? I actually like editing more than filming, but because of time reasons, I can't actually edit more, and I need to focus more on the filming because my face has to be on the camera, and I also need to do the SEO research and all that stuff. But if you're in a company where you don't call the shots on what work you need to do and what work you don't need to do, then you need to make this list and bring it to your boss and see if there are ways to address it beforehand, right? And so you don't want to walk up to your boss and say like, hey, I don't like what I'm doing and blah, 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 right? Because that boss will be like, okay, why are you telling me this and why are you doing this job? And it's like, get out of here. There are a lot of other people who want your job, right? And so you definitely don't want to be doing that. However, you do want to make a list of things that you love doing and things that you don't really like doing. And then you got to bring it up to them and it's like, hey boss, I'm just wondering, is there a possibility where I can do more of this type of stuff? It puts me in a better state of flow. I am able to engage more and I'm able to contribute and help the company more by focusing on this. Meanwhile, this other stuff, it doesn't make me as satisfied. I'm willing to do it, of course, and I can do it, but I really think my contribution would be much greater if I focus on this. If you focus on the value that you're bringing to your boss and the team, and then they'll be thinking like, okay, is there a way that we can readjust and rebalance things so that you are able to contribute more in a way that benefits everyone, right? And I understand for some companies that is not even an option, but if your company happens to be the type that is okay with this type of adjustment, then you should definitely look into it. And sometimes this may mean doing a complete internal pivot in terms of changing the job content, and it may mean using more hard skills or soft skills and just recalibrating how you balance what soft skills or hard skills you exhibit at work. And I have a video that talks about in depth what hard skills and soft skills are, so definitely check it out in the cards above. Now, option number 2 is adjusting yourself to the job. And like I said, there is no perfect job in the world. And so using my previous example of doing YouTube videos, what I've done is actually I've hired a YouTube coach where I've learned how to do YouTube properly, and so that I can optimize the workflow so that it's not as miserable for me. If you look at some of my older content, I'm really struggling in those and I'm really stiff and nervous. Now I'm, after some time and gaining experience, I'm getting better at this. If you're still here, I haven't bored you or scared you away yet, don't leave, please. This is like the time for people like, oh, F you, John, and then click out. But you get the idea. You can build soft skills, you can build hard skills so that you can adapt to the work. But basically you can upskill so that you can meet the challenge for where it's at so that you can actually flourish, right? And that's one of the things that people oftentimes, don't really understand is that, hey, if you are doing customer service, for example, and a customer service representative generally have to be agreeable somewhat, but at the same time, they need to have boundaries so that they don't get walked over by the clients, because there are nightmare clients who can make your life miserable and just, you know, not respect your boundaries at all. So in that case, the customer service representative needs to learn how to set boundaries. And it's not only setting boundaries with the clients, it's also setting boundaries with the manager, because if the manager doesn't help you and they enable these clients to walk all over you, it's going to make your life miserable. And learning how to set these boundaries and reinforcing these boundaries is going to make your life a lot easier. And I have a video on how to set boundaries at work, which I'll put in cards above, and that's just an example. But the bottom line is this: you need to have soft skills, and you need to up these soft skills so that you can do better at work, so that you can flourish more at work. And that's a soft skill example. For a hard skill example, sometimes it means simply learning new skills so that you can do the job better. And that's also adjusting to the job. And it's really like common sense when you think about it. Like, you know, if you're not good at the job, then learn how to do it better, right? So that you can actually be more satisfied at doing it. And so these are our first two options: adjusting the job to you or adjusting yourself to the job. What do you think about these two? Let me know in the comments below. Now, if you're absolutely sure that there's no way that the job can be adjusted to you, or there's no way in the world for you to adjust to the job, then that means it's time for a change. And there are only three types of switches. The first switch is an industry switch, and it essentially means you're doing the same role but in a different industry. So for example, if you are doing data analytics for marketing and you start realizing like, hey, wait a second, I don't like the job content of what I'm doing. I don't like actually doing analytics for marketing. It doesn't actually spark joy. And then you watch Moneyball and then you see them run big data on sports and you're like, hey, this is something I want to get into. And it's a booming industry because machine learning is now being integrated into those fields. And it's pretty much like analytics is the next big frontier for all sports. I mean, the frontier has already arrived, but basically every company is like having their own analytics team where they're pushing the envelope and trying to get better data and better analysis so that they can get better results. And just say you don't want to do marketing anymore and you want to do sports analytics, then you make an industry switch. You're still fundamentally doing analytics, but you're making a switch from marketing to sports. But by changing the nature of what you're doing, you may be happier, right? And so this involves a lot of other variables as well, such as the size of the company, the culture, the benefits available, the pace of work, the compensation, the style, like in terms of the work-life balance, and the values that this company has. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the intrinsic motivation. What is intrinsically motivating for you? And so I would highly recommend you to check out the video on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, which I'll put in the cards above. But by changing the industry, the company, and the content of what you're dealing with, that may be an option where you still have the skills, because those are transferable skills where you move from one industry to another, but essentially you're doing the same thing and you don't have to start from scratch. And that's like super important, because if you start from scratch, you're starting from an entry level, you gotta relearn a whole bunch of stuff and you don't even know if that's a good fit for you. Now, aside from an industry switch, the fourth switch is a functional switch. And a functional switch is basically you are staying in the same industry, but you switch your functions. So for example, if you're staying in your current company and you previously worked in marketing for Nike, you start doing a lot of training and workshops and education stuff, and you start realizing, hey, wait a second, I like dealing with people. I love educating people. I love taking the stage and writing curriculum and setting up training programs. I want to move into training and development. And then making a functional switch basically is what you can do. And of course, the availability of this option is largely dependent on whether the company is willing to accommodate or whether they have the culture to accommodate something like this. But changing what you do may be better for you rather than a wholesale, like, complete switch. And so at the end of the day, it's about finding opportunities to constantly put yourself in flow so that you can constantly be happy at work. Now, the fifth and final switch is what we call a double switch. And a double switch is essentially changing function and industry. And that's the toughest switch. And when people think about making a career change, oftentimes it's about, if this is the type that they're talking about. And to be very honest, like the options I listed out before, the 4 other options, they're much easier than doing a double switch. And because a double switch literally means reskilling yourself, relearning a whole bunch of stuff, rebuilding that network, and starting from an entry-level position. Because unless you have a lot of transferable skills that can help you make this transition, most double switches entails you starting from scratch. And so in order for you to do this responsibly, it will typically take up to several years. Now, of course, there are always exceptions. There are always going to be people who have a network available to plug them in, or there are opportunities that suddenly pop out of nowhere and you just got to grasp it. But you can't count on this type of luck. You need to strategically plan for what's ahead for you to make this transition. And basically, at the end of the day, what you need to do is you need to close the skills and qualifications gap. And that's why I highly recommend people to write a career plan so that they know what steps they may need to take. And so I would highly recommend you to check out my video on career exploration strategies, which I'll put in the cards above, because at the end of the day, you want to be walking in to a career change with a plan. You want to know what you need to do. And you can't, like, you know, build the boat while you are sinking, because you will sink. Especially if you're older, if you have responsibilities, like, you know, you're responsible to your partner, you're responsible to your children, you're responsible for your mortgage, you're responsible to your parents. Like, when you have responsibilities, you can't just do a wholesale change and just, you know, say like, you know, screw it, I'm gonna change, right? You can't do that. And that's why for most of my clients, I recommend what we call a stepping stone switch, where you first switch either your function or your industry, and then you switch the other one. If you're doing marketing at Nike and you want to switch to data analytics at Apple, then you switch either to Apple marketing first, or you switch to Nike analytics first. And then you make the other switch, right? So that it's kind of like a stepping stone switch. And this will typically take about 3 to 5 years to make a transition. And that's generally considered fast as well. So, but at the end of the day, you need to have clarity and a goal in mind on what you want to do. And that's why it's so important to plan out this whole process. I have a free training on how to make this transition, on how to plan for this, where I lay out my complete strategy, and it's completely free. So I would highly recommend you to check it out, and I'll put it in the links below. Also, check out my free guide on how to find your dream career, and I'll also put in the links below. And of course, personality is a major factor during this whole process, because you need to know who you are in order to know what's the best fit for you in terms of a job. So take the free, quick, and accurate personality test, which I'll also put in the links below. And make sure you join my Facebook group, Career Change Advice, to be in a community of people who are interested in making their careers work for them rather than the other way around. In my next video, I'm going to explain why you should make a career transition when you are unemployed. Now, as of the filming of this video, we're still in COVID, and one of the things is that a lot of people are unemployed. A lot of people have been hit by this black swan event, and at the same time, they're thinking about making a career transition and making a pivot during this time. And in my next video, I'm going to focus specifically on whether you should make a career transition during unemployment. So make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell for when that video comes out. Also, leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts about this video. Don't forget to give it a like and share it with your network if you found this to be valuable. Take care.